Hi, my name is Molly and I'm from the Big Garden. I'm joining you again today for lesson 2 of Grow Your Own, called Plenty of Plants. And we're going to be talking about skills on how to plant a seed in the garden and basic seed anatomy. We'll talk to you about some plant families that you'll find in the vegetable garden and some basic plant ID. Annuals are plants that perform their entire life cycle in one growing season. So that cycle is from seed to flower and back to seed. All roots, stems, and leaves will die back annually, and only the dormant seed bridges the gap between one generation to the next. Perennials are plants that grow for many growing seasons. Generally, the top portion of the plant will die back in the winter and then regrow back in the spring the following year from that same root system. The third type is called a biennial plant, and those are plants which require 2 years to complete their life cycle. The first season, you'll have growth of a small rosette of leaves near the soil surface. Then, the second season growth, you'll have stem elongation, flowering, and seed formation, and that will end then with the plant's death at the end of the second year. So one example is brambles, such as raspberries and blackberries. The fruits that you eat are from the second year growth. So here you can see I am planting a French climbing pole bean. I've built a teepee in my garden to help the pole bean climb up with the trellis. To build this teepee, I have 8 8-foot bamboo poles. And I attached them at the top with some zip ties. And then I used some sisal twine to make rows all along the perimeter of the teepee, going all the way up to the top. And each row is about 6 to 8 inches apart. You don't want to have them too far apart because you want to give plenty of places for the pole bean to climb. This is a great way to grow beans, especially climbing beans, because you have a really nice upright structure, but it's really beautiful too. So here you can see I am planting my beans. So you can see that I'm starting to build a trough around the perimeter of the teepee. The trough is 1 inch deep. And then I'm going to direct seed the seeds 2 inches apart. Once they germinate, if you need to thin some seeds in between to make sure that you have that spacing correct, feel free to do that. So sometimes I will overplant, and just to make sure that I have a really good germination for my seeds, and then go in after they have germinated and thin some seeds, which means that you pull seeds out of the ground to make sure you have that 2 inch spacing. So first, in this diagram, you'll see on the right hand side, we'll start with a hypocotyl. So that will become the stem of the seedling. The radicle is the first thing to emerge from the seed during germination, and that is the root. Next, the cotyledon, also known as the seed leaf, stores food and protein. The seed coat is what protects the seed before germination. If you need to break a seed coat to help promote germination, some plants will benefit from being rubbed with sandpaper, or you can soak a seed to help break that seed coat. One example of a seed that really benefits from soaking is a nasturtium plant. Endosperm, which is a source of stored food consisting primarily of starches. And lastly, the epicotyl, which is the part of the stem that will eventually turn into the leaves of the plant. So the function of a seed is for reproduction, and there's many different types of seeds. You have some that are designed for wind dispersal, animal, or water, and all that, the way it's dispersed will then dictate the design of the seed. Some of them have very thick seed coats to protect dormancy during unfavorable conditions. Roots grow under the ground and they help support the plant. And they are the part of the plant that will absorb the water and nutrients from the soil. Some plants have very deep roots and some very shallow roots. It just depends on the plant. An example of a plant that has very deep roots is corn, and a plant that has very shallow roots would be lettuce. Here I have green onions as an example of some edible stems. Also, celery is a stem. And the function of a stem is to hold the leaves, the flowers, and the fruits. It provides support for the plant, and it will distribute the nutrients and water coming from the roots and brings it up to the leaves and flowers. Here you can see I have some different examples of edible leaves. Spinach, kale, muscadine lettuce, romaine lettuce, all of those are edible leaves. And the function of a leaf is to hold a pigment called chlorophyll, which photosynthesizes the sunlight and converts it into sugars, which is energy for the plant. Here I have some mustard flowers. Those are the yellow flowers that you see. I have some onion flowers and a dandelion. Those are all edible flowers. So the function of a flower is to attract pollinators. The pollinators then will fertilize the plant by exchanging pollen, which will then fertilize the embryo. The purpose of the fruit is to contain the seed. Some fruits are very flavorful and juicy and taste wonderful for animals and people. But sometimes fruits are very small and don't taste that great. But they all contain the seed. Some fruits have one seed, like mangoes, but then other fruits like guava have a lot of seeds. But not all fruits can be eaten. Proper identification is key when it comes to both plants and insects, in order to know which are helpful, which are harmful, and which are edible. For new gardeners, it's important to label your plants in your garden. Each time you come to the garden, try to take a walk around your garden and see if you can identify what each plants are. Also label your plants with rocks or stakes, and they will help you remember what you've planted in your garden. So it's important to know which plants are in which plant family and to rotate those around different spots in your garden so you can reduce a lot of the soil-borne disease that you have with vegetables. These are some common vegetable plant families. First, Aeliaceae, that's the onion family. That contains onions, garlic, leek, and chives. Amaranthaceae, that's the amaranth family. That is beets, amaranth, quinoa, spinach. Next, Apiaceae, that's the carrot family. That's parsley, carrots, dill, celery. Next, Asteraceae, which is the aster family. That contains echinacea, dandelion, sunflower, sunchoke, and artichokes. Brassicaceae, that's the mustard family, or the brassicas. That's broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, kale. Cucurbitaceae, that's the cucumber family. That's the melons, the cucumbers, watermelon, squash. Fabaceae, the bean family. That's beans, chickpeas, peas, soybeans. Lamiaceae, that's the mint family. That's basil and sage, mint and rosemary, and so a lot of our herbs are from this plant family. Poaceae, the grass family, that's corn, wheat, barley, oats, and rice. And lastly, Solanaceae, that's the tomato family, and that is tomatoes, eggplant, peppers, tomatillo, and potatoes. Now, why do we care about what plants are in which plant family? Well, the reason why we care is because crop rotation is very important for vegetable gardens, meaning you should not plant the same plant in the same spot 2 years in a row. If you plant tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants in the same spot multiple years, you will have a lot of pest and disease issues. And that's because a lot of soil-borne diseases affect plants from the same plant family. So a fungal problem like anthracnose that affects tomatoes, if you plant eggplant or peppers in that same spot the next year, you will have a lot of the same similar problems. In this salad, I've used toasted almonds. Almonds are seeds from an almond tree. Then roots, such as carrots, radishes, or beets, are so delicious in a salad. Next, I have stems. Here I have green onions. As you can see, there's roots on the green onions, and we cut up the stem part of the plant. Next are leaves. That is spinach, kale, lettuce. Lastly, you can add edible flowers and fruits. Here, for edible flowers, I have mustard green flowers, dandelion, and onion flowers. And fruit, I have tomatoes. You could also add strawberries or blueberries. Add some dressing, mix it up, and enjoy.